This is CBC Late Night News.
Good evening, I'm Lisa Shing. It's been a violent weekend in the GTA with 4 homicides in 3 days. The latest happened early this morning at a Toronto community housing building. Angelina King has more on the violence and a look ahead to 2020.
Toronto police remove a car that appears to have bullet holes from a crime scene in hopes of uncovering clues to help solve the city's latest homicide.
Right now, Toronto police are not 100% sure if the vehicle is related to the shooting or if it's part of another investigation.
Police say multiple shots were fired outside a Scarborough apartment just before 3 this morning. The victim, 26-year-old Koshin Yusuf. Investigators are looking for 2 people who fired multiple shots.
Right now, we don't know where they have gone, if they've gone into a vehicle or if they ran away on foot.
Also today, police identifying 26-year-old Dominic Ramal Kelly as the victim of Friday's homicide in Etobicoke. Officers say there were reports of machine gun fire and no arrests have been made. And later Friday, police surrounded a Richmond Hill home for nearly 12 hours after they say a man shot at officers during a traffic stop. He was eventually arrested and charged. Then, yesterday, 2 men stabbed each other to death in Mississauga. Police say they knew each other but were not related. There have been 76 homicides in Toronto this year, coming in second to last year's record-breaking 96. But this has been a record-setting year for shootings at more than 475, and the hope is that those numbers go down next year.
We see this trending further if there's not an immediate renewed action.
Louis March founded the Zero Gun Violence movement in 2013 and calls it a crisis. He says the work is being done but needs to be better coordinated and wants to see all those people come together.
Including the 3 levels of government, including policing, corrections, employers, educators, social media experts, victims of crime, people that are responsible. The seeds are now being planted for the next generation of violence, of gun violence. And that's a scary thing.
A generation he hopes will see a change in the new year. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
Several crashes reported today after some rainy weather. Freezing rain showers and flurries may be on their way tomorrow, and messy conditions are expected over the next 24 hours into the Monday morning rush hour and beyond. Time to check in with Sonia Sash to get a few more details on all of this messy weather. Sonia, it seems like Toronto will be missing the bulk of it, but the north and the east will be taking a bit of a hit.
Absolutely. Definitely. If you can work from home tomorrow, that's probably your best bet. But Toronto will get a lot of rain, up to 30 millimeters could drop. So right now, yes, that low pressure system has made its way through, feeling like -5. That rain will continue into Monday morning, -2. As you said, that early morning commute could be a little tricky for everybody. So again, that widespread low. GTA, Vaughan, Barrie, all the way through to Peterborough could see some freezing rain going into tomorrow morning. And then, of course, to the north, we'll see that snow. So again, this is that boundary. And it's the second rainfall that we're going to see from Windsor through to Toronto. Again, possibly dropping 20 to 30 millimeters of rain. And then these areas, if you are commuting 400 north to Barrie, could see some of that freezing rain all the way through to tomorrow morning. And then if you are traveling 401 through to Kingston area, again, please be careful. Give yourself a lot of that extra time because, again, up until 7 o'clock in the morning, we could see that freezing rain risk. Also, the wind gusts in Toronto could be over 70, close to 80 kilometer per hour wind gusts going into the evening. And again, the temperatures do become very mild, but very temporarily until then we go into 1 degree. So from 8 degrees to 1, again, Wednesday and Tuesday could be your trickiest day commuting. So please be careful on those roads.
Definitely. Thanks so much, Sonia.
Thank you.
In the U.S., a man has been arrested after 5 people were stabbed at a Hanukkah party just north of New York City. The charges: attempted murder and burglary. But the state's governor is declaring it domestic terrorism. Paul Hunter has the latest on a string of anti-Semitic incidents.
Mr. Thomas, why'd you do it? Do you have anything to say for yourself?
The suspect, facing 5 counts of attempted murder with bail set at $5 million, didn't answer. But as he was arraigned today, Grafton Thomas from Greenwood Lake, New York, pleaded not guilty. Last night, the latest apparent hate crime to scar this country. This one during Hanukkah celebrations in Monsey, northwest of New York City, at the home of a rabbi packed with dozens of people. Say witnesses, a man walked inside with what appeared to be some kind of sword and began slashing.
Swinging is a sword, knife, I don't know what it was, back and forth, hitting people.
These photos taken afterward, evidence of the brutality and the rush to save lives. Those inside threw furniture at the attacker, who fled but was soon arrested in Manhattan.
I think this is an act of terrorism.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo now wants his state to consider domestic terrorism legislation.
They are trying to inflict fear. They're motivated by hate. They are doing mass attacks. These are terrorists.
By Cuomo's count, this was the 13th hate-based attack in these parts just this month. In Jersey City, December 10th, 6 died in a gun battle at a kosher food mart, say authorities, fueled by hate. America's deadliest anti-Semitic attack was just last year when 11 were shot dead at a synagogue in Pittsburgh.
This is an intolerant time in this country. We see anger, we see hatred exploding. It is an American cancer in the body politic.
Today, unbowed and outside the scene of the attack, they rejoiced in their faith and community, even as many almost certainly worry, what next? Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
And the community here at home is reacting to the latest attack as members of the Canadian Jewish community try to make sense of it all.
This kind of attack, first of all, we feel at one with those who were in the rabbi's home yesterday. Jews around the world and across Canada, certainly, were celebrating the 7th night of Hanukkah. So each of us can see ourselves in that very situation, in this sort of heinous attack.
Stephen Shulman says the string of attacks is further evidence anti-Semitism continues to be a threat. He says the community and its allies need to be vigilant. And Mayor John Tory also speaking out on the violence today, saying he's horrified by the stabbing attack and he condemns the hateful violence and the clear anti-Semitism fueling it. A Toronto family is fighting for access to a medication that can supposedly treat their 4-month-old deadly disorder, but it comes with a hefty price tag. That's led to a unique yet controversial strategy to offer it for free. Olivia Stefanovic explains.
This is what it takes every day to care for Eva Batista.
Baby, you want to give me the mask?
Parents Jessica and Ricardo use a suction mask to keep saliva from building up. At 4 months, Eva is too weak to eat or breathe through the night on her own.
It's crippling. Your muscles deteriorate.
Eva has spinal muscular atrophy, a rare, potentially deadly genetic disease. Her parents say Eva's best hope is a one-time gene therapy injection. It's considered the world's most expensive drug, costing $2.8 million. So far, only approved in the U.S.
To say that your therapy has the potential to be curative is huge.
The Swiss company behind the treatment, Novartis, is offering 100 free doses of Zolgensma through a lottery in the new year.
Access to it should be based on need, not how lucky you are.
This health policy expert says Zolgensma should be distributed through a needs-based system. As for the cost,
this is an example of drug companies exploiting people's desperation.
The Batistas want a shot at that lottery, but they have to prove Eva's current treatment is ineffective.
And the fact that we can't get access to it until she's basically on her last breaths, like that's not fair. That's not fair.
The family can try to get special access through Health Canada, but they face similar hurdles.
I would hope that the health minister would intervene.
Critics are calling for changes to the approval process for restricted medications.
I think this case speaks to exactly the reason why we need a national framework for these orphan drugs.
The federal government is developing a strategy to deal with high-cost drugs for rare diseases. Meanwhile, the clock keeps ticking for the Batistas. The potentially life-saving drug needs to be given to Eva before she turns 2.
You smell like formula.
Olivia Stepanovich, CBC News, Toronto.
A proposed class action lawsuit has been filed against LifeLabs over a massive data breach. The personal information of up to 15 million customers of the medical services company was accessed in the hack. In an unproven statement of claim filed in Ontario Superior Court, the lawyers accuse LifeLabs of negligence and breach of contract. The class action asks for more than $1 billion. LifeLabs chief executive Charles Brown apologized earlier this month, which led the company to pay a ransom to retrieve the data. This lawsuit follows another proposed class action launched in British Columbia 2 weeks ago. After more than 40 years on the streets of Toronto, the TTC is retiring the last of its old streetcars. Today was the final day to ride one of the last 2 remaining cabs. As Kelda Yoon explains, people got on for free to commemorate the occasion.
For these passengers, it's one last chance to ride the old streetcar. Like many here, Lex Reed is feeling a tad nostalgic. He remembers riding it as a kid with his mom.
My favorite memories is like sitting down at the door, opening the window, looking outside, feeling the breeze on your face.
For Felix Ahn, it's all about
the gong, like the bell is like that's like one of the most iconic sounds of Toronto.
I'm a transit fan.
I'm obsessed with transit. Yeah. They're just so romantic, kind of. Riding them in the rain especially is so nice. You can sit there and dream.
And the Wilk siblings came all the way from London, Ontario to hitch a ride.
Well, we drove 2 hours. We felt that it was a last opportunity to come and see it. And I suppose we were always fascinated, especially with the Swiss-built ones.
It's like a blast from the past. It's really nice.
The first of these streetcars arrived in Toronto on December 29, 1977, exactly 42 years ago today, and they first went into service in September 1979. In total, the city purchased 196 of them.
Watch your back there, folks.
Brenda Michaud has been operating them for 23 years.
Yeah, apparently they're going to retire the old Rattler. That would be me.
She says it's bittersweet. The new vehicles have heat and air conditioning, but also enclosed cabs, which means
there's a lot less interaction. And the subway guys tell me you get used to it because they don't have it either.
After today, all the old streetcars will have been replaced by the more accessible low-floor streetcars by Bombardier, which have been steadily growing in numbers for the last 5 years.
I think it's just an evolution of the city.
Lawrence Loy is a transit planner with the TTC. He says it comes down to improving service.
So they're larger, so they're helping to carry more people, and that's really important in downtown Toronto.
The new streetcars are expected to last the next 30 years. As for the old ones, a few will be added to collections at transit museums across North America. Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
If you're holidaying in that part of the state, it's time that you left.
At least 40,000 people have been ordered to leave a section of southeastern Australia tonight or risk being trapped by flames. More on that. Plus, people in Mogadishu tend to the wounded after a truck bomb went off in the Somali capital yesterday that killed dozens. The latest on that right after the break. A Texas church was the scene of gunfire that killed 2 people today. Police say the shooter pulled out a shotgun and shot 2 parishioners before armed churchgoers fired on him. It happened in a suburb of Fort Worth. The gunman killed 1 person and critically wounded a second. He then was killed by members of the congregation who shot at him. They are being praised by both the local police chief and the state governor. Efforts are underway to get medical help to victims of yesterday's truck bombing in Somalia's capital, Mogadishu. Dozens were wounded and 90 were killed. Turkey has sent medical supplies and emergency staff. It's also airlifting some of the most seriously wounded for treatment in Turkey. A Hamilton nurse who moved to Mogadishu is also helping to tend to the wounded.
I think the sheer volume overwhelms our systems, and the medical practitioners are not at a level where they're able to manage such the volume, but also the kind of injuries that come in. The resources and what's available medically is not adequate.
The bombing was blamed on al-Shabaab rebels. It's the 20th attack of its kind this year and the deadliest since 2017. 40,000 people have been ordered to leave a section of eastern Australia. 3 large wildfires are burning in an area east of Melbourne. Tanya Fletcher has the latest.
It's a very serious, life-threatening situation.
It's been bad for weeks, and it's about to get worse. Massive fires are threatening a tourist region. The message for the tens of thousands vacationing there: get out.
If you're holidaying in that part of the state, it's time that you left.
The flames have shut down major roads, many the only access points into and out of communities. People are being told if they don't leave now, they could wind up trapped. The extreme fire risk has canceled a popular music festival. Thousands of fans have had to ditch their tents and leave.
It's pretty disappointing, but obviously understand that it's for safety reasons and got to do what's right for the general public.
Even Sydney's iconic New Year's Eve fireworks are now in jeopardy.
We'll work through to make sure that risk is appropriately addressed, and where necessary, we won't allow them to go ahead.
Calls are mounting to cancel the event and donate the money to fire relief efforts instead. Not possible, say organizers.
Preparations for these celebrations began 15 months ago, which means that most of the budget has already been spent.
For now, the show will go on, barring catastrophic conditions, and that largely depends on the weather.
It's going to be hot, it's going to be dry, it's going to be windy.
The heat wave is forecast to intensify this week, with temperatures soaring into the 40s, a problem for the wildfires and the wildlife.
Very thirsty boy.
Poor little thing. The extreme summer weather becoming the biggest enemy for those on the front lines, many of them volunteers.
She got everybody from their 20s to their 70s, and they're still working, they're still belonging, they're still caring for the community and each other.
Communities banding together in the face of flames that still show no signs of subsiding. Tanya Fletcher, CBC News, Vancouver.
A rhino, believed to be the oldest in the world, has died in Tanzania. Scientists named the black rhino Fausta. They first located her in 1965. She'd lived a free-range existence until 3 years ago, when hyena attacks prompted the decision to take her into sanctuary. It's believed she was 57, about 7 years older than the usual limit. The black rhino is an endangered species, mainly because of poaching.
Once they see a person like me who's made it, it gives them a lot of confidence and motivation to, say that they can do it and they don't have to give up.
Hundreds of young basketball players laced up their shoes in Markham, part of Andre DeGrasse's annual holiday tournament. So why does the decorated sprinter have a passion for hoops? Find out right after the break. Dozens of brave skaters took to the ice for the annual Polar Bear Skate today, and when we say bear, we really mean it. It's the second time the Bentway has hosted this particular skate. The new trail snakes under the Gardner near Fort York Boulevard and Fleet Street. The free event is put on in hopes of bringing together the community in a somewhat of an unconventional way. Participants were also encouraged to bring winter clothing to donate to the city's homeless. Time to check back in with Sonia Sash. Sonia, I'm not going to lie, I'm already freezing in winter in clothing, but no, definitely not for me.
Not for me either, but we have some good news to share. I'll tell you that in just a little bit, but that low is making its way through, bringing that rain to Windsor, of course, to Toronto. And then that skating rink that you were talking about, that is from Sault Ste. Marie all the way through to Kingston. There are still freezing rain risk advisories in Vaughan, Barrie, of course, Markham. So please be careful. That is the second wave going into tomorrow morning. So tomorrow's commute might be a little tricky, but again, more of that rain through to Toronto. The good news is that we're above seasonal right now. That will continue over the next couple of days. But in the meantime, Monday, again, we should see maybe 2 millimeters of freezing rain in Newmarket, 10 maybe through to the Lindsay area. Again, going into Monday, you think it's going to be tricky. Tomorrow's commute, well, Tuesday might be worse. Again, 30 millimeters of rain can be seen spanning this entire region. The wind gusts, they do change to a southerly flow. So again, we're going to have close to 10 degrees going into our Monday and Tuesday night, but it warms up pretty quickly. And then what happens, that low pressure system winds around, we get more snow. So there's that wet, warm, and then it goes right to freezing, close to 1 degree going into our Tuesday evening, and we could see a dusting of snow. So Tuesday's commute could be the trickiest that we have seen. It goes from 8 to 1.
Freezing, almost. Thanks a lot, Sonia.
Thank you so much.
Andre DeGrasse took a break from the track today to host his third annual Holiday Classic basketball tournament in Markham. More than 800 young players from around the GTA showed up to shoot some hoops and to see the Olympic star in person.
It's actually crazy because he ran with Usain Bolt.
I'm grateful and thankful to be able to, throw the third annual Holiday Classic tournament. I grew up playing basketball here in Markham, so these roots are very important to me. So anytime I get a chance to, do something like this for the community, it feels pretty good. We had a panel. We want to teach them the importance of taking care of their body through injuries, teaching them also about, getting an education, what's the process like of how to go to college, how to go to university, to make it to the next level. So all those things together, we're just trying to teach them and guide them throughout that and try to just give them good advice on things so that they don't make mistakes in the process. So it's been fun. It's been a good learning experience for them, and they've asked a lot of questions.
I'm gonna ask him like what advice would he give to athletes like myself, and how is it like racing against Usain Bolt and stuff like that. He's really kind, friendly, because I do track, not only basketball, so Andre DeGrasse can give me tips and stuff, and I can learn from that.
Andre DeGrasse, he's a wonderful person. I know he has to travel a lot, he's a track runner, and it's actually wonderful for him to give back to his community by doing this basketball event every year.
These are the kids that you're gonna see in the up and coming future. So I just try to give them that advice, and it makes me feel good that when I'm done and I retire and I see them doing their thing, it's gonna mean the world to me.
Definitely a great cause for the young kids. Well, that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. You can stay caught up on news anytime on our website. That's at cbcnews.ca. And as you heard, lots of slippery, messy weather coming up across the GTA and across Ontario as well. So be careful on your commute anywhere you are. Make sure you stay safe out there. Have yourself a great night.